Today I will show you how to terminate Leviton's SDX 24 fiber splice module. To do this, you will need some tools, including Aramid yarn scissors, fiber strippers for 250 and 900 micron fiber, a marking pen, a sheath cutter, some marking tape, a tape measure, and a small screwdriver. When you are performing fusion splicing, the typical consumables needed include lint-free wipes, alcohol, a disposal bin for fiber shards, and cleaning tools for the instrumentation. The parts that come with the SDX module include the module, an instruction sheet with a marking template for fibers, mesh sleeve used to protect 900 micron buffered fibers or other jacketed cable assemblies as needed, nylon tie wraps that you will use throughout the termination process, and splice sleeves. The splice module has two chambers, the top and the bottom. The bottom is for trunk storage when the trunk enters the module. The top area is for pigtail storage and where splice terminations occur. This is how the splice module will look right out of the box. The pigtails are wound through underneath in the storage area, and the splice sleeve holders are here at the top. Turn the front over and you will see where the pigtail slack goes after termination. The first step in preparing the module for termination is to remove the top lid and then remove the splice sleeve tray. The tray lifts up from the front and pulls out of the receiving slot. Now you'll see the pigtail with the service coil. You will remove the fibers from the tray and lay them out flat. Next will be to route and mark the pigtails for termination. We will separate the two groups of fibers into group 1 through 12 and group 13 through 24. The top row is fibers 13 through 24. That can be shown by the 1 through 6 and 7 through 12 on the front of the module. So we will begin by separating fibers 13 through 24 and marking that group with a piece of tape back at the end. Then route 2 full loops in the pigtail storage area, directing all fibers to the far position or position 24. Make sure they are all grouped together when routing the 2 full loops. Take the fiber splice sleeve holder tray and put it back into the unit. Start with the 2 tabs at the end of the tray and guide them into the housing. That will make sure it is seated properly. There should be a small amount of space above the tray for the lid to attach to later. Next, take your groupings of 12 and route them up into the splice tray to prepare them for measurement. This will be for 13 through 24, and this is for 1 through 12. Take 13 through 24 first and route them directly through the splice sleeve holder, and then mark and cut all of the fibers right at the exit point of the holder. Lay the first group into position, and we'll do the same process for grouping 1 through 12. Route them through the wire management holders, and then cut right at the end of the other splice sleeve holder. The pigtails are all now measured. The next step will be to get the pigtails out of the way in order to address the trunk cable. Remove the splice sleeve holder tray temporarily, unwind the fiber, and set them out of the way. Place the tray back into the base to hold things in place. Flip over the assembly and remove the rear door. At this point, you might want to use the mesh sleeve provided, depending on your cable construction. If you are using a loose tube fiber or tight buffered fiber that you are breaking out from a larger jacket, the mesh sleeve will help break that down to smaller increments or protect fibers entering into the module. Mark from the end of the fiber a minimum of 38 inches and remove the outer jacket. Separate the fibers into 2 groups of 12. One group will have black marks on them, the other will have no marking. Take the second group of fibers, 13 through 24, and use a piece of tape to keep them separated. Once the fibers are separated, pre-install some tie wraps on the module. The tie wraps will be used to temporarily help secure the trunk cable to the module base. Bring the trunk into the back entrance and tie wrap it down over the cable jacket. Make sure you don't over-cinch the tie wrap. Then perform 1 full service loop. And use the second tie wrap to hold the fiber temporarily in place. Once the fiber is tied down, flip the module back over. We will now repeat the process that we did with the pigtails, but we will route in the opposite direction, into the same positions, which will be fibers 1 through 12 and fibers 13 through 24. On your instruction sheets, you will find wiring diagrams showing exactly how to route each group. Here we will take fibers 13 through 24 and perform a 3/4 loop, and then we will take fibers 1 through 12 and perform a full loop. We will start with fibers 13 through 24, routing them through and then cutting them at the edge of the splice sleeve holder. Then we will repeat the same process with a full loop of fibers 1 through 12, and afterwards fully remove the pigtails from the splicing side of the base. I've flipped the module back over, and I will remove the trunk cable completely for now. Carefully remove the 2 tie wraps and the trunk. Leave the pigtails connected on the opposite side. Now we're ready to fusion splice, starting at fiber 1 through 24 in order. The first step is to remove the splice chips from the splice holder and set them out for the termination process. Once we've spliced a fiber and let it cool, we will preload it into the holder. This will keep everything organized and neat as we go through the process. Before beginning the termination process, install all of your splice sleeves on the trunk side or the pigtail side. Refer to the marking guide on the instruction sheet. Lay the fiber over the guide and mark where the fiber will be stripped at 30 millimeters. The reason we strip at 30 millimeters is so we can properly cleave the fiber without having too long of a fiber shard left over to fit in the disposal bin. Once the spliced fiber has cooled, install it into the splice chip. Make sure the internal strengthening rod is in the down position when you install it into the splice chip. Once you have fully terminated all of the fibers and loaded the splice chips, it's time to load everything back into the SDX module. First, we will attach the trunk to the rear storage chamber. We will rework what was done when marking the fibers. This time we will use 5 tie wraps for the final dressing, 3 in the trunk storage area and 2 in the pigtail storage area. Reposition the trunk at the same point as before and perform 1 full loop and secure the fiber with the second tie wrap. Then install a 3rd tie wrap at the front, just loose enough to keep the fibers all together. Then trim the tie wraps and make sure the head of the tie wraps is aimed toward the base so it doesn't obstruct the lid of the module. Install the rear lid by sliding it forward and engaging the plungers into the grommets. Flip over the module to prepare the splice tray for loading. To load the splice chip tray, turn the tray 180 degrees from where it would be installed. We will load fibers 13 to 24 in this position and 1 to 12 in this position. Start with fibers 13 to 24 first and route the fibers through the wire manager first. Then install the second chip and route in the opposite direction and work the fibers under the wire management retainers. Continue routing the pigtail side, creating 1 additional loop back toward the trunk exit point. Do a final check of your splice chip tray. Make sure your bend radius is compliant and secure under the wire management tabs. Next, we will take the additional pigtail slack and load it into the pigtail storage area. Once you've completed 2 full loops in the pigtail storage area, make sure all of your fibers are under the wire management tabs, and then install your final 2 tie wraps. Again, make the tie wraps just loose enough to hold everything in place and trim the tails from the tie wraps. Next, lift and rotate the splice tray 180 degrees clockwise and lay it back in place. Slide the tabs into the receiving slots. Make sure all of the fibers are under the retention flange at the rear of the module. Make any final dressing and adjustments that are required. All fiber should be under the wire management tabs, and the tray should be sitting flush onto the wire management tabs below it. Then install the top lid, engage the plungers into the grommets, and your installation is complete. Learn more about the SDX Splice module and the SDX family of fiber solutions at leviton.com/SDX.